Latitude is Dell's business laptop brand, designed and manufactured mainly by Compal and Quanta. The Latitude is similar to ThinkPad series from Lenovo. Overview and product type. The Dell Latitude is a laptop family from Dell Computers, intended for business use. By contrast, the Dell Inspiron is aimed at the consumer market and its specifications change regularly. Whereas Inspiron may change vendors or components several times over the course of a single model, the Latitude line generally retains identical components throughout its production. This design is intended to simplify maintenance and support tasks for large corporations, allowing components to be easily swapped between models. Dell Latitude computers are also built to Dell's road-ready specification, which includes a durable magnesium alloy casing, internal metal frames and strike zone shock protection in case the computer is dropped or suffers a severe impact. Many models also feature free-fall sensors or solid-state drives. Latitude models are also considered more durable and higher quality than the Inspiron line, and even above the premium Studio and XPS models. The ultra-portable 4 Series and mainstream 6 Series Latitude models have 3-year support, as opposed to the 1-year warranty on other models. The Essential Latitudes retain the 1-year warranty of other products. But, this results in a price several hundreds of dollars higher compared to the consumer models. Latitude computers are also differentiated in their feature sets, due to their business focus. For example, they often include security features such as SmartCard and contactless SmartCard, and TPM security, which are not needed by most consumers. A lid clasp, DisplayPort video out, and support for legacy standards are all results of the requirements of the business market. Some models also have the capability of Latitude ON, which can be selected during the configuration of the laptop. Latitude ON is essentially a system within a system. It requires a separate add-on module which contains its own microprocessor and operating system. This allows the laptop to function in the realm of a netbook. The primary competitors to the Latitude series are the Lenovo ThinkPad line and the HP EliteBook line, both of which offer similar business-oriented features and durability of the Latitude line. Current models. As of 2011, Dell's Latitude shipments primarily involve the Latitude E series, introduced in August 2008, on the EX00 revision. All E-series models ending in 00 have the Intel Centrino 2 chipset, as well as some variation of the Intel Celeron or Intel Core 2 Duo processors. As of 2013, the E-series uses second-general Core I processors using the Sandy Bridge architecture. The mainstream models come in 2 categories, Essential and Standard. The Essential models are the E54XO and E55XO, while the Standard models are the E64XO and E65XO. The E64XO and E65XO generally use higher-end materials like trimetal for the chassis, while E5XXO lines tend to have a plastic chassis. The E6XXO lines also generally offer higher-end features like dedicated graphics. The Latitude series also include a number of specialty models. The E42XO and E43XO are ultra-portable notebooks. The Latitude E64XO ATG is a ruggedized version of the E64XO, and is Dell's only semi-rugged offering. Dell's fully rugged offering, the XFR, has transitioned from the D to the E series. The Latitude XT is a touchscreen convertible tablet computer. Other models like the 13 and the Z have been added to the line also. Like previous models, the E-series has the option to use a second battery in the modular bay. A 9-cell battery slice can also be purchased. The battery slice uses the docking connector located on the bottom of the laptop to provide additional power. As a drawback, the laptop cannot be docked while the battery is in place and the battery requires a separate charger. However, with the inclusion of the extra battery, the overall runtime for the E-series is substantially greater when compared to other Latitude series computers. EX30 models, E6530, 15.6 inches mainstream, E6430, 14.0, E6440, 14.0, E4200, 12.1 ultra-portable, 2120, 10.1 rubberized netbook, 13.3 ultra-thin and light, XT3, 13.1 convertible touch tablet and pen, EX20 models, E6520, 15.6 mainstream, E6420, 14.0 mainstream, E6320, 13.3 ultra-portable, E6220, 12.5 ultra-portable, E5520. 15.6 inches essential, E5420, 14.0 essential, E5520M, 15.6 value, E5420M, 14.0 value, E6420 ATG, 14.1 semi-rugged, EX10 models, E6410 ATG, 14.1 semi-rugged, E6400 XFR, 14.1 fully rugged. Previous models, E5400, 14.1 essential, E5410, 14.1 essential, E5500, 15.4 essential, E5510, 15.6 essential. E6400, 14.1 inches mainstream, E6410, 14.1 mainstream, E6500, 15.4 mainstream, E6510, 15.6 mainstream, E4300, 13.3 ultra-portable, E4310, 13.3 ultra-portable, E6400 ATG, 14.1 semi-rugged, XT2, 12.1 convertible touch tablet and pen, XT2 XFR, 12.1 convertible touch tablet and pen, fully rugged, 2100 10.1 netbook, 2110 10.1 netbook, Z16.0. Thin and light. The previous series is the Latitude D series, on the DX30 revision. The models are the D4XO, D5XO, D6XO and D8XO. Most models are based on the Intel Core 2 Duo and the Intel Santa Rosa chipset, with the exception being the D531. Ever since the D420, D620, and D800, the D-series features wide aspect LCD screens, 12.1 inches, 14.1, and 15.4 respectively. The Latitude D620 weighs 4.7 pounds, and the base model includes a 1.67 GHz Intel Core Duo T2300 processor and 2 MB of L2 cache. There is an option to upgrade to a Core 2 Duo T7X00 processor with 4 MB of L2 cache. It comes standard with 512 MB of DDR2 RAM, expandable to 4 GB, and 4 USB ports. For graphics, it offers the Intel Graphics Media Accelerator X3100, and an option to upgrade to Nvi Dia discrete graphics at the expense of lower battery life. Latitude D600 series. The Latitude D600 series is the 14 inches/14.1 corporate model. It aims to combine heavy-duty power with reasonable portability, and differs primarily from D8XO series in screen size. All are two-spindle designs, with a D-bay modular bay which can interchange optical drives, a second hard drive, floppy disk or a second battery. All models have a smart card socket, PCMCIA socket, and 9-pin serial port, a D-dock port for docking station or port replicator, and have an internal socket for an 800 2.11 wireless card. The D600 and D610 share a common form factor, battery socket, and have a parallel printer port. The D620 and D630 share a common form factor, battery socket, and do not have a parallel printer port. Both have support for an optional internal Bluetooth module, a socket for an optional mobile broadband card, and have an external switch for disabling any wireless connections. Latitude D600. The D600 was Dell's first business-oriented notebook based on the Pentium M processor. It used the first-generation Banias, order-thin Pentium M chips running on a 400 MTSFSB on DDR memory. It had a PATA hard drive and a D-series modular bay, and used an ATI Radeon 9000 GPU. It had a 14 inches screen, in regular form factor. Unlike later D600 series machines, both memory sockets were accessible from a single cover on the bottom of the system. Many Latitude models had a near-clone Inspiron. In the case of the D600, it was the Inspiron 600M. Differences include that the 600M does not work with the Dell D dock, and the case styling is slightly different. The motherboards, screens and hard drive caddies are all physically interchangeable. The Latitude D600 used a PA10/PA12 charger and came with a DVD drive, 2x USB, 1x TV, 1x network, 1x parallel, 1x serial and 1 monitor output. The hard drive is accessible through a cover on the left-hand front side of the lower case and is secured by one screw. After removing the screw, the hard drive can then slide out. Latitude D610. The D610 was an update of the D600 design. It used the same case design and very similar specs. The chipset was updated and used DDR2 memory, and it used a second-generation Dell Pentium M chips running on a 533 MTS FSB. The location of one memory socket was moved to underneath the keyboard. The D610 was available with either an ATI Mobility Radeon X300 discrete GPU or Intel Integrated Graphics. It still continued to use a PATA hard drive and E-series modular bay. Latitude D610 longevity. Some Dell Latitude D610 units with a dedicated ATI X300 graphics card seem to have problems with the audio out jack. Symptoms of this problem include a noise or whine when an audio device is connected to the audio out jack. Up to this date, Dell does not have a clear solution to this problem. A number of Dell Latitude D610 units will develop microscopic fractures of the motherboard. Symptoms of this problem may include inability to turn on the computer, unexpected shutdown within 30 seconds of being turned on, or visible screen artifacts while in operation. This problem also frequently contributes to the blue screen of death in Windows. The Dell Latitude D610 was intended to have a 3 to 4 year life. After this period, some known issues include deterioration of CPU and other issues causing poor performance, especially with newer software. However, the later model units appear to have been fairly rugged machines. Latitude D620. In March 2006, Dell introduced the D620, its first business-oriented notebook with a dual-core processor available. Initially available with the Interim Core Duo processors, it was sold with the first-generation mobile Merom Core 2 chips once those became available from Intel in the fall of 2006. Both run on a 667 MTS bus. It was initially sold with Intel Integrated Graphics, but an option to upgrade to a discrete Nvi Dia GPU became available after a few months. It replaced the raised pointing stick with a low-profile model, and introduced the option of 4-cell and 9-cell batteries in addition to the standard 6-cell model. It uses DDR2 memory and is compatible with both PC2-4200 and PC2-5300 memory. The D620 accepts a maximum of 4.0 GB of physical memory, but a chipset limitation restricts the memory seen by the system to 3.5 GB, or 3.3 GB with onboard video. The D620 has one mono speaker located in the base below the touchpad. It has no option to expand to stereo without using external speakers or headphones. There was no near-clone Inspiron model for the D620. Latitude D620 problems. All early D620 models were known for faulty LCD screens. The early models suffered from light bleeding, where a black screen would show light bleeding in from the bottom of the screen. This wasn't fixed until almost a year into production. In addition, some D630 screens are known for having bad LCD pixels. The D620, D630, D820 and D830 were available with an Intel Integrated GMA or Nvi Dia graphics chip. All Nvi Dia models will suffer from early failure of the graphics chip due to defective solder and underfill of the BGA graphics core as it responds to thermal fluctuations. This is attributed to faulty manufacturing on the part of Nvi Dia, which caused a multi-million unit recall, not only of some Dell notebooks, but also some HP, Compaq, and Apple products. The final date for submitting claims under this class action lawsuit was March 14, 2011. The failure manifests itself by stripes or artifacts on the LCD and also an external screen or by the total absence of an image. There is no permanent fix for it, and the early replacements by Dell included only the same but new faulty chips which will also fail eventually. So far only the models with the Intel graphics seem to have survived. Dell tried to prolong the lifetime of the Nvi Dia chips with a BIOS update which causes the fan to run more continuously and thus reduce the strain from repeated heating-cooling cycles on the graphics chip. However, all these chips will die eventually. Some models may not have built-in Wi-Fi. Latitude D630, released in 2007, the D630 is an update of the D620 design. It differed most significantly in being based on the Santa Rosa chipset, which supported the 800 MTS models of the Mobile Core 2 Duo. It also had newer versions of the graphics processor options, support for Intel's Turbo Memory Flash Cache, and support for internal wireless N. It also added a 4-pin FireWire IEEE1394 port. It uses DDR2 memory and is compatible with PC2-5300, and PC2-6400 memory will work at PC2-5300 speeds. The D630 will accept a maximum of 8 GB of physical memory. Unlike the D830, the D630 has non-stereo speakers. There was no near-clone and spir-on model for the D630. Latitude D630C, the D630C was a slight variant model of the D630. It featured a manageable version of the motherboard chipset, and base configuration was slightly more powerful. Except for the chipset management, all of those base features were available as options on the regular D630. The D630C only shipped with the dedicated NVIDIA graphics as the D630 had as an option. This was due to the upgraded chipset. The D630C also only shipped with an Intel wireless card that supported 802.11n as the D630 did not. Latitude D8Xo series, the Latitude D8Xo series is the 15.4 inches corporate model. Unlike the D600 and D610, all feature a widescreen form factor. All are two-spindle designs, with a D-bay modular bay which can interchange optical drives, a floppy module, a second hard drive, or a second battery. All models have a smart card socket, PCMCIA socket, and 9-pin serial port, a D-dock port for docking station or port replicator, and have an internal socket for an 802.11 wireless card. The D800 was Dell's first widescreen Latitude. The D8Xo series models roughly parallel the technology in the D6Xo models other than for screen size. They do not share a battery form factor with the D6Xo series. The D820 and D830 add an express card socket, not available in the D6Xo series. The D830 is capable of accepting 8 GB of physical memory with updated firmware. The D800 equated to the Precision Series M60, and the D810 to the Precision Series M70. They were for all intents and purposes identical except for the graphics card and certification. The near-clone and spir-ons for the D800 and D810 were the Inspiron 8500 and 8600. There were no near-clones of the D820/D830. Latitude D5Xo series, the Latitude D500 series is a set of entry-level business models. They are built on a 15 inches non-widescreen form factor, although models before the D530 were sold with both 14.1 and 15 screens. They are two-spindle devices, and roughly follow the technical generations of the D6Xo and D8Xo series. The D530 was Dell's last non-widescreen Latitude model. The D531 was an AMD-based model, and less closely related to the other DX30 series models but was based on the D820/D830 chassis. Latitude D4Xo series, the D400 and D410 were 12 inches non-widescreen ultra-portable notebooks, roughly following the technology of the comparable generations of the series. The D400 had a design that was similar to the D610 and came with a ULV Pentium M. The D410 came with a ULV Pentium M. The D420 and D430 are 12.1 inches widescreen ultra-portable notebooks. The D420 came with either an Intel Core Solo U1300 ULV 1.06 a GHz, Intel Core Duo U2400 ULV 1.06 a GHz or Intel Core Duo U2500 ULV 1.2 a GHz. The D430 came with either an Intel Core Solo U1400 ULV 1.2 a GHz or Intel Core 2 Duo U7600 1.2 a GHz. The U7700 processor was later made available as an option. While the D8XO, D6XO and D5XO models were all introduced simultaneously with each generation, the D4XO series were generally introduced a couple of months after their counterparts. Also, since they use ULV processors and chipsets, and are generally less powerful, the technology does not correspond as closely as it does between other models in each generation. For example, the D420 uses the parallel ATA hard drive rather than the SATA interface in the D520-0820. In a 22C DEG ambient, the D430 U7700 processor has been measured to run from 62C DEG at idle to 85C DEG under heavy system loads, that is, within 10C DEG of Intel's max temperature rating for the processor. The D4XO series has been replaced by the E4200 model. Latitude C-Series. The Latitude C-Series notebooks covered the range of processors from the Pentium 166 MHz to the Pentium 4M. Models in this series included the CP, CPI, CPX, C600 and C800, CPT, C500 and C510, C400, C610 and C810 and C640 and C840. C-Series laptops were notable for their consistent and interchangeable accessories across this wide range of processors. The series was one of the first to offer the UXGA 1600x1200 resolution display and included a Nvi Dia GeForce MX 432 MB video accelerator to complement the display requirements. A robust design made it a favorite in harsher climates. However, this design lacked the visual appeal of many of its competitors. The most popular of the C-Series included the C800, C810, C840, and later the C640. The later C-Series models mostly had near clones sold as the Inspiron 4000 and 8000 series, C840 cloned as the Inspiron 8200, C810 cloned as the Inspiron 8100, C800 cloned as the Inspiron 8000, C640 cloned as the Inspiron 4150 and as the Inspiron 2650, C610 cloned as the Inspiron 4100, C600 cloned as the Inspiron 4000, CPXJ cloned as the Inspiron 3800, CPXH cloned as the Inspiron 3700. An interesting note on the C840 is that it was the last Dell notebook to have both a fixed optical drive as well as a modular bay, making it a 3-spindle notebook. The modular bay could also be used for a second battery identical to the primary battery rather than a special modular bay battery. It used a Pentium 4M processor and DDR's RAM. The Dell C840 can support up to 1 GB of RAM in each of 2 slots, for a total of 2 GB in all. Other models, the Latitude ATG was a highly toughened version of the D630, and was Dell's only semi-rugged offering, while their fully rugged offering consisted of the XFR. The Latitude XT was a touchscreen convertible tablet computer. These models maintained high compatibility with the rest of the Latitude D family. The ATG as well as the XFR have a protective glass glued on top of the screen. The glue developed by DuPont will fail on both models, resulting in visible air bubbles, sometimes even dripping out of the top case. Latitude XT problems. In July 2008, Dell released multi-touch touchscreen drivers for the Latitude XT tablet, claiming the Industria Euro unregistered trademark as first convertible tablet with multi-touch capabilities. 11. Dell has partnered with N-Trig, providers of DuoSense TM technology, combining pen, capacitive touch and multi-touch in a single device. N-Trig Euro unregistered trademark S DuoSense Dual Mode Digitizer uses both pen and zero-pressure capacitive touch to provide a true hands-on TM computing experience for mobile computers and other digital input products over a single device. A large number of user reports suggest that the Dell Latitude XT suffers from a major problem. The N-Trig digitizer interfaces to the XT by an internal USB port. Users report that any other USB device which is plugged in may, and usually does, prevent the N-Trig applet from identifying the N-Trig hardware. In addition, there have been reports that certain other drivers, such as iTunes Helper, may cause this or a similar problem. Other users report no problems from iTunes. According to the reports, this still leaves the DualSense but without multi-touch and other advanced features, which render the auto and dual mode useless. The digitizer will only start working again after consecutive reboots. There have also been reports that the driver may crash, catastrophically or non-catastrophically, leaving no screen input at all. A reboot may solve the problem, but often users found that the driver installation is damaged, requiring a reinstallation of the drivers. But the install program will not uninstall if it doesn't recognize the N-Trig hardware. In this case, the alternatives are restore the entire operating system from backup, manually uninstall by erasing all N-Trig programs and drivers, then editing the registry to remove all references to N-Trig, then reinstall the N-Trig software, or do a complete reinstall of Windows. These problems have been reported both with XP and Vista, 32 and 64-bit. In addition, Dell sells a media base with an internal DVD drive. The drive also interfaces by way of a USB connection inside the media base. Most, but not all, users of the media base report that it prevents the drivers from loading. Nvi Dia GPU Problems. Many D620, D820, D630, and D830 models with Nvi Dia mobile GPUs may experience graphics failure. A class action lawsuit settlement by Nvi Dia was reached where certain Dell models were provided with replacement motherboards at no expense. Battery recall affecting D-series. Dell posted notices to many of their laptop customers on August 14, 2006, saying that the Sony batteries on the D410, D500, D505, D510, D520, D600, D610, D620, D800, and D810 models were prone to bursting into flames, or even exploding. The batteries on any of these computers purchased between April 2004 and July 18, 2006 were supposed to be removed and the computers run on AC power until replacements arrived. Problematic Sony batteries led to battery recall programs at other laptop companies, including Hitachi, Toshiba, Lenovo and Apple. System configuration. The majority of Dell laptops are built to order. Each generation incorporates the newest and latest technologies at the time of design. Processor, depends on the model and configuration. Memory, depends on the model and configuration. Screen, depends on the model and configuration. Operating system, Windows, FreeDOS, Ubuntu, hard drive, depends on configuration. Ports, most of Dell's current laptops have a minimum of 2 USB ports and 1 Ethernet port. Technical specifications, E family, D family, usable RAM limited to 3.25 GB by chipset, C family, optional, motherboard supports 1 GB SODIMMs, X family, L family, CS family, history, E family, May 21, 2012, E6230, E6330, E6430, E6430S, E6530, E5430, E5530, E6430 ATG, February 8, 2011, E5420, E5520, E6220, E6320, E6420, E6520, E6420 ATG laptops and XT3 convertible tablet, April 8, 2010, E6410, E6510, E6410 ATG announced, August 12, 2008, E family announced, D family, June 28, 2007, D430 announced, May 9, 2007, D630, D830, D531 announced, January 16, 2007, ATG D620 announced, June 20, 2006. D420 announced, May 2, 2006, D520 announced, March 29, 2006, D620, D820 announced, April 26, 2005, D510 announced, February 1, 2005, D410, D610 and D810 announced, January 12, 2004, D505 announced, May 19, 2003, D400 announced, April 10, 2003, D500 announced, March 12, 2003, D-Family announced, C-Family, July 11, 2002, C640 announced. November 12, 2001, C400 announced, September 25, 2000, C600, C800 announced, October 25, 1999, CPXH 500 GT and CPTV 466 GT announced. Some of the earlier Dell laptops lacked a built-in Ethernet network adapter. Well into the Internet age, CPXH 500 GT was one such model. August 23, 1999, CS Line announced, June 14, 1999, CPIR 400 GT, CPIA 400 XT, and CPIA 366 Street announced, May 4, 1999, CPT Line announced, January 5, 1999, CPIA 366 XT and A300 Street announced, CPID 266 XT, PII 266, 512 KB cache, Intel i440BX. 13.3x GA1024x768 TFT. 256 LMB max, 2 EDO SO-DIMM slots. 4-20 plus GB, 2 PCMCIA, 2 modular bays, PS/2, VGA, parallel, USB 1.1, audio in-out. Windows 98. CP Line, 1997, C-Family announced, XPI Family, 1999, Dell Latitude XPI P133 Street, Neomagic New Mexico, 2070 chipset, 24 MB of memory, 1.2 GB hard disk, PCMCIA modem card, Windows 95 with possibility to partition and install Linux, Desktop Survival Guide, ultra-portable, June 28, 2007, D430 announced, March 30, 2005, X1 announced, July 29, 2003, X300 announced, May 6, 2002, X200 announced, October 4, 2000, LSH 500. Street announced, value, November 6, 2006, 131L announced, March 23, 2006, 120L announced, March 8, 2005, 110L announced, April 13, 2004, 100L announced. The Latitude 100L is a near clone of the Inspiron 1150 and is also closely related to the 1100, 5100, and 5150. The Latitude 110L is a near clone of the Inspiron 1000. References. External links, Dell Latitude D630, Dell Laptops Buying Guide, Dell's official laptop buying guide site, Dell USA Medium and Large Business, Latitude Notebooks.